Hi, for those that don't know who I am, my name is Mary Ann Slaubaugh, and I am the school board president for the Mid-Prairie Community School District. As you are all aware, on Monday, September 28th, we are holding a school board meeting at the Mid-Prairie High School cafeteria to revisit the issue of face coverings that is currently in place today. So at Monday's meeting, we will revisit the issue of whether masks should be mandated in the classrooms for our in-person learning. Recently, the administrators have had conversations with some school board members about a possible metric or option to consider as we approach Monday's meeting. And so this decision-making model is being presented at this time to create awareness and transparency that this is being reviewed at Monday's meeting. Please keep in mind that this is not yet approved, but it is under possible consideration. Some school districts in Iowa have implemented a similar decision-making model, so we wanted to bring it to your attention before Monday's meeting.
Thanks, Mary Ann. On the screen, you will see the decision-making model that has been drafted. Some school districts in Iowa base their decision-making model on one criterion. We actually chose to put this together using two criterion, and those two criterion are student absenteeism and staff absenteeism. And student absenteeism is defined as all absences for students that are due to quarantine, a COVID positive test, or other illnesses. Other types of absences, like a child has to go to a family funeral or family vacation, would not be included in this absentee rate. Staff absenteeism really is just looking at the number of teachers, the number of paraprofessionals, and the number of bus drivers that are absent. It doesn't mean that our cooks and our custodians and everyone else isn't important to our school staff, but these are the critical staff members that we need to find substitutes for when they are absent. So when we have a high number of teachers, paraprofessionals, and bus drivers that are absent, and we don't have substitutes to take their place, it becomes really difficult to have school that day. So staff absenteeism and student absenteeism. Student absenteeism is divided into three different categories: 0 to 5%, 6 to 20%, and 21% and above. Staff absenteeism is divided into two categories: low, which is 0 to 12%, and moderate, which is 13% and above. This decision-making model really looks at these two factors, and then when these two factors are applied, then it determines what kind of learning model we would have, and it would also determine what our policy on face coverings would be. The other thing about our decision-making model is for the learning model, it really looks at the elementary schools separately from the middle school and the high school. So for instance, we could possibly have our elementary students going to 100% in-person learning, and the middle school, high school might be in a hybrid learning model. For face coverings, the entire district would do the same thing. So we would take the statistics in their whole for face coverings, but for learning model, we would look at each elementary, middle school, high school level differently. Okay, let's see how this would work. Let's assume we are talking about face coverings in the district and trying to decide what to do with face coverings. If our student absenteeism is low, in the low category, and our staff absenteeism is low, then we would be green. And so what we would do is in the green box. So that would be face coverings are recommended in all situations. However, if staff absenteeism was still low, but student absenteeism was moderate, then face coverings are optional when social distancing is possible, but they are required when social distancing is not possible. And as you continue to look on the matrix, you can see what we would do for face coverings depending on the severity of our student absenteeism and the severity of our staff absenteeism. With learning model, it would look differently because we would take each level and look at it differently. So for instance, in staff absenteeism, low is defined as 0 to 12%. In the elementary, that means that we would have between 0 and 10 teachers, paraprofessionals, and bus drivers absent. If the staff absenteeism was low in the elementary, but the student absenteeism was moderate in the elementary, that means we would have between 31 and 114 students that were either in quarantine, tested positive for COVID, or had other instances. Then we would do 100% in person in the elementary schools. However, if staff absenteeism was in the moderate level in elementary, and that means that we had 11 to 82 employees that were gone, and student absenteeism in the elementary was moderate, then we would go to a hybrid learning model. That would be applied to the elementaries separately from the middle school and high school. So it may be possible that we could be hybrid at the middle school, high school, and 100% in person in the elementary schools. Or we could just have the opposite. A logical question is, when would these decisions be made? The decisions would be made every Wednesday by looking at the statistics. And those numbers would be posted like they are now. Obviously, if the school board adopts this model, we would need to change our dashboard, but we want to be very transparent with the numbers that we're collecting and with the staff and the student absenteeism rate. So those would be looked at every Wednesday. They would be calculated on a 5-day rolling average, so that means we would look at Wednesdays plus the 4 previous days and take an average. The decision would be made on Wednesday, what would happen next week starting on Monday. And the decision would be communicated to the parents and the students in the community Wednesday evening. This would continue on every week. A decision about face coverings would be made for the entire district, and a decision about the learning model to be used would be made for the elementary level and also for the middle school, high school level. If the hybrid model is instituted at either level, elementary or secondary, the hybrid model would continue for at least 2 weeks. And the reason that it wouldn't be a week-to-week decision as far as hybrid is concerned is because we didn't want to create a situation where students were jumping back and forth from week to week. So it could be possible that we would have hybrid for 2 weeks, and then the third week we would come back to 100% in person. Or it might be that we need to continue hybrid for another week. But again, the parents and the students would be notified on Wednesday evening for the following Monday. Another logical question is, who is going to decide when social distancing is possible? And from our perspective, that would be a decision that would be collaboratively made between the building principals and the teachers and the other school employees. So it wouldn't be up to one individual person to decide this is a social distancing classroom, and this is not a social distancing classroom, it actually would be done in cooperation between the principal and the classroom teacher. Another thing to note is the staff absentee rate is based on staff absences that are beyond their control. So for instance, this would include absences to staff due to illness, due to quarantine. It could be emergency days, but it would not be absences due to professional leave or personal leave that the employees are taking.
So I do have a question with regards to the decision-making model. So if we had a low absenteeism rate for the teachers, but a high absenteeism rate for the children, for the students, we would be in the 100% in-person or hybrid model. And this learning model decision would be dependent upon the percentage of COVID-related absences versus other illnesses.
Yes, you have that correct. And the thinking there was if the absences are due to non-COVID related illnesses, that might be a different decision if it was related to COVID positive cases. The other thing that might play into that is the number of student absences that we had due to quarantining versus the number of absences that we had due to students that were actually ill for a reason.
And then will the administrators or the building principals and the teachers make that determination?
No, that would be, all the decisions would be made at the district level.
Okay.
Obviously, we would look at the information at the district level. We would put it out to the building principals, to the directors for their input, and as I stated, the decision would be made by Wednesday evening, so that gives parents and students Thursday, Friday, and the weekend to prepare for what's coming next.
Okay. And then the question for the moderate absenteeism, for the moderate level for the staff absenteeism and the high for the students, then that would be the application to the Iowa Department of Education for 100% online learning, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
and obviously that would mean that we would have approximately 22 teachers, paraprofessionals, and bus drivers absent, and it would also mean that there would be a high number of students absent, as the numbers indicate here. Altogether, it'd be about 252. And so with an absentee rate that high, we would qualify through the Department of Education guidelines for 100% in-person learning. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we would have to follow through with that, because obviously the school board would need to approve that application.
All right, so thank you so much for presenting the decision-making model. And if anyone does have any questions or concerns about any of the aspects of the decision-making model process, please let us know. Please keep in mind that this is being reviewed. It has not yet been approved. So if there are any questions or concerns, definitely let us know. We definitely want any feedback that you may have for us at this time, before Monday's meeting.
Sure, and this will be, a hard copy will be posted on the Mid-Prairie Start of School website, and we'll send that link out again through School Messenger, and we'll put it on Facebook. Again, I'll just reiterate what Mary Ann said. If you have any questions, feel free to get in contact with me before Monday evening. If you want to call my cell phone, you can reach me at 319-936-8601, or feel free to send me an email and I'll try to get back to you. So thank you very much. This is a great community to work in. I hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you Monday evening. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.